site. That's probably why you're here. Little brief history on myself. I guess back in the day in California, we used to do fireworks in the neighborhood and sparklers, snakes, piccolo Pete's, stuff like that. And I got an early exposure to that and really liked fireworks. When I was about 5 years old, me and the kid down the street found my parents' matchbook collection and started playing with those, and we just sat there and lit the whole book on fire, throw it under the bushes. Light the whole book of matches on fire, throw it under the bushes. And we thought that was pretty fun, so we were going to make more fireworks, better stuff. And we took styrofoam and stuffed it down PVC pipe and then sprayed a bunch of WD-40 down there. And we were going to light that on fire. And luckily, my mom found the matchbooks underneath the bushes. She's like, what's going on here? You guys playing with fire? And so she shut down our little pyro manufacturing operation that we had in the garage. And that was my first experience making fireworks. And I kind of put the hobby aside for a while. And
which is probably a good thing.
Yeah, it saved us a lot of trouble and probably some third-degree burns. And 20 years later, I've seen a fireworks show. It was the 4th of July, and it's like, that was cool. I'd love to get involved with fireworks somehow. And I was Googling around, how to blow stuff up. Literally, I'm pretty sure that's exactly what I searched on Google. And 2 websites came up, Skylighter.com and Pyro Innovations. If you don't know Mike Toxtine here, he hosts Pyro Innovations. So I clicked on both links, and Skylighter was like, make fireworks at home. And I was like, that sounds pretty cool. And Mike's site was become an operator and get paid to do fireworks. And I was like, that will probably keep me out of jail. I could do this. So I decided, I clicked on Mike's site and I called him, and we emailed back and forth a bit. And he got me on a crew, and I started shooting shows for operators down in Southern California, and just hustling around and working a lot of shows, and then eventually got my pyrotechnic operator's license and started shooting shows for pyro spectaculars. And that was a lot of fun. And I was on a crew down in San Diego for a Sky Show, and a buddy of mine that I worked a few shows with, he's like, what are you doing next week? I'm going to this event in Hawthorne, Nevada. It's called Do It. I'm building a 16-inch shell. I was like, that's awesome. He's like, well, come on out, and you'll build a shell. I have stuff, don't worry about it. Just show up. So I went and I made a 4-inch shell and an 8-inch shell. And, just making those shells and lighting them and seeing them break in the sky and having that success, really got me hooked on manufacturing. And the next event, I was all in. I had all the gear and all the chemicals and all the stuff, and I was making my own shells and buying what I needed from the vendors here, and I was really off and running. So, of course, I circled back to how to blow stuff up on the Google searches. Got back on Skylighter's site, and there's just tons of articles and information and formulas and all kinds of good material on there for making your own fireworks, So I want to talk to you guys a little bit about chemicals that are in fireworks, safe storage and handling. We'll be talking about making compositions, and you notice I didn't say anything about having any kind of chemistry background. We're not going to talk about that at all. If you want if you have any technical questions on the chemistry side of it, I'll get the answers for you after the seminar. Yes?
Why do you stay in California instead of having moved it to some other regulatory friendlier state?
Actually, California is really friendly for just having chemicals. Since we don't manufacture anything or actually sell fireworks, my local fire marshal came in and he inspected our place, and he's like, okay, you got your oxidizers in one container, you got your fuels in another container, looks good. If you get any new products in stock, just give me the list, and then put a list of everything you have in a binder and put it at the front door. And then if there's a fire, put fire department on that binder. And then if there's a fire, my guys will come down, they'll look in the binder, and then they'll let the place burn. Alright, cool. So I was fine with that. That was a good enough answer for me, but I guess that's the long answer. The short answer, I said, honey, we should move to Nevada to do the skylighter thing, and she said, have fun. Yeah, exactly. So it wasn't really an option, but definitely was a consideration. So that's one of the things, like I mentioned, at Skylighter, we have like 40-foot containers that we store the chemicals in, and a couple of 20-footers. And we're like, one of the most strict things we have is always keep the oxidizers and the fuels separate. We have separate packing rooms, so when we buy the chemicals, they come in 50-pound bags. And we break them down into little 1-pound boxes or 1-pound bags, and so on and so forth. So that's like the main rule we have is oxidizers always stay in the oxidizer container and get repacked in the oxidizer room. And even the guys that are packing chemicals have separate masks, suits, gloves, everything for each room. We have separate rooms to clean them, and just like everything's super separate. We're really strict on that. Because if those two mix, that's how you have an explosion or a chemical reaction that could cause a fire, injury to somebody. So let's see here. As far as like safe chemical storage goes, a lot of you probably, if you're into manufacturing, you've got a bunch of chemicals in your garage or the shed or something like that. And when I got into manufacturing, that was a huge concern for me. I was like scared to death to make fireworks, or even have chemicals in my house or transport chemicals to a WPA event to make them. Like how do I get all this stuff there? What if there's an accident or something? Are they going to blow up? Like I have kids and so it's like I don't want my house to burn down. You know what I mean? And so I talked to a friend and people that have been manufacturing for a while, and basically, like, if you are storing chemicals in your house, you just have to keep the oxidizers and the fuels separate. If you can put them in a separate room, that's ideal. If you have kids, try to keep one of them locked up, like keep your fuels locked up.
Kids locked up.
That would be the best. But so that's what I do, is I have half of my chemicals, like all of my oxidizers in the garage, and then I have all of my fuels in another room that's locked. And so they can't mix. And then when I come to an event, I just put them on opposite sides of my trailer, drive them out like that, and then manufacture like that. So any questions on storage or how to transport chemicals? Yeah.
So what are the actual containers that you're storing them in? Do you have to use particular types of plastics or non-plastics so you don't have chemical reaction there, and then you have to seal them airtight, vacuum, and that sort of stuff?
That's a great question. Thanks for bringing that up. Well, stuff from Skylighter will either come in a bag or a box like this, and the chemicals themselves can be stored in like any kind of plastic baggie or like PVC or vinyl. It's going to be fine. Once you mix a composition, you want to keep it in like an HDPE container because that's like static resistant. And I mean, when I'm mixing like even a star composition or storing black powder, I'll use 5-gallon buckets and store them like that. One of my, like, the first thing I got into, like, when I first started buying chemicals and storing them, I use those snap lock containers, and they're kind of expensive, but they're really nice. And I put them inside of like a, those turkey bags that you can cook a turkey in? That's really nice for chemicals like sulfur that smell, anything that gives off any kind of odor. You put it in the turkey bag, twist it up, tie it in a knot, and then throw it in a snap lock container. And that's my favorite, but it's kind of spendy just getting all those snap locks, So the box and bag is fine just for storage. Yeah, any other questions? Okay, so when I'm mixing a composition, what I'll do is like say whistle fuel, for example. If I'm making whistle mix, that's one that is pretty static sensitive. What I do is I weigh out all of the fuels first, and I put them in a bag, and then I wet them down with like Coleman camp fuel or lacquer thinner, and then I put the oxidizers in, so that the fuels and the oxidizers are never going to be intermingling when they're dry. And then zip the bag up, and then just like knead it like dough. And it's kind of like the consistency of spaghetti sauce until some of that lacquer thinner evaporates. But you don't really, I mean, some compositions like black powder that are not static or shock resistant or like sensitive, you can just like put it in a ball mill, and that's pretty much how I make my black powder. I'll just ball mill it. I throw everything right in the ball mill. Take the ball mill outside, like 100 feet from any dwelling, set it down, and then run the extension cord back to the house and plug it in that way, so that you're not actually by the ball mill when it's running. And like other than that, though, you never want to put metals inside your ball mill except for lead balls. If you get titanium in there, or there's any like magnesium or anything like that floating around, it could ignite the black powder and create an explosion. So I'm pretty strict on like, I have a ball mill that I use just for black powder, and that's it. If I was going to do other chemicals, you want to make sure you clean it really good, or just use an entirely new barrel and media. A lot of guys do that for some of the chunkier chemicals.
Wait, in which states are you just ball milling black powder in the backyard?
You can do that in California.
Oh, you can?
Yeah, you can have up to 50 pounds of black powder in California
Oh, okay.
per personal use. Yeah. Or you can do it at a WPA rent.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just black powder, nothing else.
Right,
Can't
okay.
make- but black powder is used for like black powder rifles and all that kind of stuff. So.
Okay. As long as there's no perchlorate or anything in there, you just do it in the backyard?
Right. Yeah, that's one thing. You never really want to ball mill perchlorate or chlorate, especially because it is really static sensitive and shock sensitive and can cause an explosion. I mean, unless you're just ball milling perchlorate or chlorate by itself. So now I'm going to do a demonstration of like what could happen if you're careless and mix chemicals together on accident. And so I have an oxidizer here that I just mentioned, and it's pretty friction sensitive and shock sensitive, and I have sulfur here too. And we'll just do a quick demo of what would happen if you just mix this stuff together and aren't storing it properly, just so you can see like the potential dangers of carelessness. Let's see. Go on and do it on the table. Do it on the floor. Maybe on this table. Can you guys all see?
Yeah.
All right.
I'm gonna move the table over in the center.
This one's kind of wobbly, but
That one over
we
there.
can, yeah. Is that better for you guys?
Okay, why don't you take one now?
All right. Thank you. Perfect. Thank you very much. So if I was really making a actual composition, I'd probably use a scale. We'll just eyeball it, because when you know what you're doing, like you can just eyeball it, right? You never really want it. This is a demonstration on what not to do. So when I'm making a composition, I don't usually wear protective gear, but for the sake of being on video, I will. Typically, I don't really like to, like I would never eyeball like a star composition or black powder or anything like that. You probably won't get the results you're looking for. Most pyros are gonna keep like a notebook, but because when you're making fireworks, you want to create something that is repeatable. So you want to take really good notes.
What type of oxidizer?
We're going to use potassium chlorate. So I don't know if this is actually going to work because I'm not weighing it out, but let's see what happens, huh?
That's a lot.
Is that good?
Might be
Just a little hair more, or
Sorry, what were the two chemicals I missed that one?
that's sulfur.
Oh, sulfur and potassium and chloride?
Yeah. So I'm going to grind it together on this rock and kind of see what happens. It's probably going to be a little loud, just so you know. I don't want to surprise anybody. So it's like, this stuff is really sensitive. Kind of sounds like I'm just hitting the rock, huh?
Not a damn today.
It's a little damped out. Whoa, that was good. Yeah. So like, that was definitely less than a gram. And you can see how that could be a problem if you're trying to make an 8-inch shell and you're putting together, 3 pounds of star composition and you don't really know what you're doing. I guess that's good.
And
But,
you gotta have that sharp surface of the rock to do it.
Yeah, that helps. Huh? There's still a bunch on the hammer, so I'll try and just dispense that. And it just keeps going, but if I was actually making a composition, the first thing I do is like, or even making a firework device is like, I just have out what I'm working with, and not have like my black powder out or any other chemicals or anything that can catch on fire. I always want to work with just what I'm working with at the smallest batches possible, especially if it's something I've never made. If that way if something goes wrong, there won't be as much damage. You can minimize like the catastrophe.
Now, is that going by the shock or by the spark? Can you do that with a brass hammer or not?
You could, yeah. This reaction is being caused by the pressure.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Yay! Yeah, we can just do that the rest of the seminar if you guys want. All right. So another thing I want to. Do you guys have any questions about that? Safe handling or carelessness? All right. So I'll do a brief description of why certain chemicals create certain colors. So like take copper oxide for instance. If you like copper oxide, what's going to happen is you have the nucleus of the atom, your protons and your neutrons, and the electrons are spinning around the outside, right? This is as much chemistry as we're going to get. When the copper oxide heats up, the electrons start moving at a faster rate and they spin in a bigger circle around the neutron or the nucleus of the atom. And then what happens is they heat up so much that they have to give off energy, and they do that in the form of a photon. And depending on what the element is that you're heating up, whether it's strontium or barium or copper, it depends on the color. The other thing that influences the color is the atmosphere that it's being heated up in. So if you've made stars before, or colored stars, a lot of them have parlon in them, and that's a chlorine donor. So what you're doing is you're introducing chlorine to the atmosphere around that atom that's heating up. So when the photon is released, it's the color is also dependent on like whether there's chlorine there. So copper in an oxygen-rich environment is going to burn green. Once you add Carlon to the composition, you get blue. Does that make sense? All right. Any questions? No questions? All right, good. So a lot of compositions that are used, like, I don't like to tinker with chemistry too much because that's not like my field of expertise, but you can do some safe substitutions. Like for instance, Skylighter has a plasma cutter fountain kit, and it calls for strontium nitrate, also titanium, Carlon, and magnesium. And if you put strontium nitrate in those fountains, they'll burn red. But you can easily buy some barium nitrate to go with it and substitute that out for the strontium nitrate, and you can get a green fountain also. And you just switch those two chemicals and that's it, in the same ratio. So that's kind of a neat thing you can do by having those two oxidizers. Okay, so I have some samples here of different metals that I'm going to pass around. You guys can check them out, and I'll talk a little bit about these chemicals and how we test them and what they do. Just start these over here. The cap's just like popped on there, so you can pop it open and take a look at them if you want.
Pardon the interruption. Hey. It makes me feel better. And I found a spot for your thing that no one's going to get their feet muddy, so
Okay,
right
great.
out here.
Okay, should I just link up with you when we're at that point?
When you guys get to that point, yeah, I'll be around. Find me and I'll walk you over there.
Okay, thanks, Greg.
No problem.
There's some metals.
No problem. Thank you.
So all of these that I'm passing around are all fuels that are different types of metal, and there's also even one that is just wood, which is used in like a V-Lean star kit. I never thought sawdust would be a fun pyrotechnic thing to have, but it turns out like, I'll give you a short story. To get wood meal, I have to buy like a metric ton of this stuff, and it's just sawdust. But you want it from like a plant where it's all going to be consistent. And this is, it says 140 mesh. It's probably actually between 80 and 140. So I was giving away bags of this stuff, 40-pound bags to anybody that wanted it, that do it. And I ended up with a couple extra bags. And we found out that if you just throw a handful of sawdust in the fire, it makes like a huge fireball, which is a really fun thing to do if you just have like a ton of wood meal to get rid of. Another great use for wood meal is in a Cremora fireball. So I don't know if anyone's made those, but it's simply just black powder on the bottom of a coffee can with a fuse into the black powder, and then wood meal on top. Yes, sir.
We have flash suppression units in our sawdust extraction from the cabinet shop.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because that happens. You get a fine dust going in there and you get a spark.
Yeah. And there are explosions, like, not all the time, but often, you know, where it's like it can be a sawmill where there's just too much dust airborne and it causes an explosion, or even like a grain mill, flour is flammable too, you know. We'll see some of this stuff's not going to burn, but a lot of times, if we want to get an idea of how these metals are going to perform, we'll just run it through a flame. So we'll make a little bit of a mess here, I guess. Oh, you know what? Yeah. I got a coffee can. We're gonna run through this, and I want to do the thermite demo. We've only got about 15 minutes left. Yeah, that's good. So it's just a fireball. It's just a flame. There's no color.
That was what?
That was wood meal. Yeah, the sawdust there. Next we got airflow charcoal. Probably going to be similar. Yeah, it's a little packed. Oh, it's packed together too much. So I couldn't get a nice little cloud going, but trying to keep it from too much of a mess there. Yeah, it burns good, but this would actually work really well for more fireball with wood meal, like a 50-50 blend. Now we have aluminum. Pretty much, if you're making fireworks, you probably have like fine micron aluminum. This works really well in stars. And it's actually, this is a 9 micron, so it's sparking a little bit. You get an idea, or you're going to get a white spark from that if you put it in star composition. So this is a 13 micron aluminum, and you're getting a little bit of spark, but nothing major. The particle size is a little bit bigger, so it's harder for the flame to actually burn it. And this this type of aluminum actually has like oxygen already in it, connected to the outside surface, that creates a protective layer. So it makes it harder for the aluminum to burn in the flame. But in a composition, this will burn really well. And that's what I think we're going to use 13 micron in our thermite. Let's see here, more charcoal, maybe an 80 mesh will burn for us. We'll get to some of the funner stuff. I got some ferro-titanium and some titanium. There you go. So, like an 80 mesh charcoal or anything bigger than airflow will make like a nice spark tail. It's great for adding to rockets, or if you add it to a star composition, you'll get more of like a tiger tail effect. Okay, an orange spark. This one is 36 mesh charcoal. Let's see if that'll catch. It's a lot bigger particle size than the 80. Yeah. So when you put this in your rocket fuel, depending on how much you need, it could be 10%, 5%. You're gonna get a big fat orange tail coming down, and that's a lot of people like that because it just hangs for a while. The bigger the size charcoal, the longer that tail is gonna hang. All right, Firefly aluminum. This will be used in like a glitter composition. And it literally just looks like glitter. We're not going to be able to really see what it's going to do with flame test because the particles are too big on that. This is that's 10 to 12 mesh right there. This is a mixed glitter aluminum. It's 40 to 325 mesh. Maybe we'll get an effect out of that. Yeah. It's not really working well just on the flame test, so that would have to be tested in a composition. You can't really take the shortcut and see what it's going to do. But a lot of times, like when I get something in stock like this titanium here, the first thing I'll do is run it through a flame because titanium is really reactive to a flame. See if I can. You can kind of hear it crackle a little bit. That's because it's actually like a zirconium alloy. Zirconium's not usually it's not legal to ship, but because it's in an alloy with titanium, we can stock that and ship it.
What mesh is that?
This is it's a 35 to 180. All right, ferro titanium in a 30 to 60 mesh. This is usually going to create a yellow spark, like a really nice yellow spark, better than just charcoal. You can kind of see it. But that's really nice in fountains and stars. Like if you have a charcoal star and you add 5% ferro titanium, like a charcoal-based star, like a black powder-based star, like a tiger tail or a Komoro, you can add your ferro titanium and you'll get a nice yellow spark tail. It's a little different effect you can see from the charcoal. And that's burning real nice. Right there, that's real bright. Those 40 to 325. So the smaller particle sizes in this one, they allow it to react a lot easier with the flame. Now on a smaller particle size like that, it'll, same ringtone as me, it'll burn a lot quicker and the sparks won't hang as long as a bigger particle size. Alright, magnesium, aluminum in a 100 to 200 mesh. That's pretty reactive there. I'm just making a damn mess of this.
This lighting.
A little bit.
For science.
Alright, yes, for science. This is your Indian blackhead aluminum. It's a pretty fine particle size, like a 325 or smaller. And you can see you're getting the same color spark as the other 9 micron aluminum. It's just this is burning a lot quicker. You see it flash, it just lights up instantly. Alright, what do we got here? Magnesium aluminum in a 200 to 325 mesh. And that, whoa! That's really reactive. Can't see anything now. That's the end of the seminar. Alright.
What was that?
Exactly, yeah. Same as magnesium. And it comes in various different mesh sizes, and it's the same thing. It's often used in strobes, and the bigger particle size, the slower the flash is going to be. If it's a small particle size, it's going to flash real fast in the strobe composition. And here's a titanium sponge. Pretty big particle size, so it just burns, but you want to use that in something where you want to have a big flash. People use it inside of salutes. And the bigger the particle size, the longer the flash will hang. Alright, so I'm going to wrap this up real quick. We got about 7 minutes left. You guys want to do a thermite demo? Yes! Let's do it! Alright, so normally I would weigh everything out on the scale. And when I'm weighing chemicals, I like to work with the metric system. It's a lot easier for me. I'm going to make a kilo, and that's just 1,000 grams. So it's real simple to look at a formula, like for instance black powder, it's 75, 15, 10. So it's 75 parts potassium nitrate. If I'm making a kilo of black powder, that's going to be 750 grams of potassium nitrate. Then 15 parts of airflow charcoal, that's going to be 150 grams. And then it's going to be 10 parts of sulfur, and that's going to be 100 grams. Now, if I was doing it in pounds, I would be converting it to grams and then converting back to pounds anyways. All right, let's see if... I'm not going to weigh it out just because when you get the Thermite Kit from Skylighter, you don't have to weigh it out. It's already weighed for you. I've got 6 pounds of iron oxide here, and then 2 pounds of our aluminum. And I'm just going to mix them together in a bag and we'll put it in this coffee can and we can go like that. Let's see what it does. Yeah, we'll do that one out then.
Want a knife?
Yeah, I forgot to talk to that. You got one here? Thank you very much.
How many chemicals in thermite again?
It's going to be aluminum and red iron oxide.
Have you played with active
is that? Magnetite?
Repeat the comment.
What's that?
Repeat the comment.
Oh, what is it? Magnetite? I haven't used that. I don't have any, and I don't have any in stock. But I think you could use black iron oxide, or even. Oh, it is. Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, you could definitely substitute. I don't, because it's a little more expensive, and I don't know if it works any better or not. I think it's the same. I think you can also use copper oxide.
We gotta go to the outside.
And thermite? How much you do? Oh, okay. So I'm just gonna take my red iron oxide and put it in the bag here.
You just gonna burn this, or are we gonna try to cut something with it?
Just put it in a coffee can. Have you got anything we can?
No, I don't know.
Engine block.
Somebody suggested putting it on the hood of someone's car, but
Cell phone they don't want.
Just a test.
Go golf cart.
yeah, it's for science, right? It was educational.
Do it on top of the fire extinguisher. Don't put it out.
Well, those are a bit expensive. Do on top of the torch kind of stuff.
I'll put it out. Blow it out. Stick it right up in the middle of the speed limit.
So this stuff burns at like 4,000 degrees, and like everyone's probably heard the old story of like you put a coffee can of it on the hood of someone's car, and it'll burn right through the engine block. And I haven't tried it personally, but I'm guessing it's true.
You don't know, like 10 minutes in, you need to pull apart the car.
I'm sure this is correct.
So I'm just gonna mix that by hand. This is one of the easiest compositions to make if you've never made any kind of fireworks before. It's a great one to start out with. Because there's only 2 chemicals, you know, and you don't really need any special tools to do it. It's got a really high ignition point, so it's pretty safe to work with. I could put a torch to it and it's not going to light.
Is it even considered a firework? In other words, in California, is thermite regulated?
It's not. It's not considered an explosive or a firework. So this is something that you could potentially, you know, depends on the local authorities, I guess, and what they have to say about it. But legally, you could make this in California because it's not an oxidizer. And we can walk out to the racetrack if you guys want, and I'll mix it on the way. And we're going to use a sparkler to ignite this stuff because these burn at like 3,000 degrees.
I live out in the street out by Power Road. I moved out there. So I remember there was a Sierra Hotel.
All right, you guys ready?
Save the sparklers.
So I'm just sticking the sparkler in like a little fuse.
Attention on the deck. Testing the infield is known and authorized.
Disappeared the can. And feel free to come on in and take a look. That is like molten metal right there. That's
Liquid magma.
yeah. Yeah. I wonder if it's going to make glass underneath there. Looks very artistic.
Tie that up and auction it off on Saturday.
Scoop it up and
warm up in the wood.
no, I don't think they are at all.
Someone get the hot dogs.
Who needs a campfire when you have thermite?
What does it taste like?
He's saying bring marshmallows next time. Make us some more, you know?
Wow.
I'll take it back over.
So that's what hell looks like.
I felt like it would have worked.
Yeah, it normally goes to the foot. What's it? All around
Yeah, I've done it before. If I pour the entire composition right into the coffee can, it actually kind of explodes a little bit. It like kicks, like it looks like lava kicking out, you know? So next time I probably won't leave it in the bag. I'll just put it straight in. I think it slowed down the burn rate. Yeah, because it wasn't all.
It made a nice little. You're going to be able to lift that up when it cools, and you'll have a solid piece of. You know,
You think so?
it's iron.
Like iron?
Yeah. I mean, unless it cracks while it's cooling. I mean,
Right on. Donate it. We'll donate it to the auction. Like this.
art is a great idea. Now it's art. It's art, yeah.
Wait, so what's left there? Is that iron or it's...
That's iron. What's happening is the aluminum is ripping the oxygen.
But
the aluminum
it's an alloy down
still in there now, or did it...
there might be some,
Yeah.
there might be some aluminum oxide impurities in there too. Or it might, some, I think some.
I'm tempted to throw something on there. Or,
Well, Jim was offering to pee on it.
I wouldn't
For
try
science.
to forge that into anything.
For science.
Cool modern art.
There's a puddle over there.
It doesn't look very hot. Pick it up. You're right. You probably wouldn't be able to do anything practical with it. Just like full of oxide impurities. Yeah.
Yeah, you want to let it cool naturally so it stays in one place.
Pretty warm still?
Actually, it makes kind of like a clock or something.
Fire.
There it goes. It'd be fun to just throw firecrackers on it.
Quick, go to the C10. Pick up a table and stack it over.
Yeah.
Yeah. Science.
Fire extinguisher today. Yeah. Ever since I grabbed my razor, I'm not gonna take it off. Take it off.
What's the name of that company again for the small rigs? Small rigs. Okay.
Makes it slide.
So it's not to get
Exotic thermites. Put like Crisco in there or something like that. I know guys use that for that's why you get the flux when you're making like casting bullets and stuff like that.
Thank you, Mike.
Have a good one. That pretty much concludes the seminar. Thanks for coming out. Yep, I'll be around in the C tent 5 to 10 every night. You guys want to stop by and say hi? Yeah, we got all kinds of stuff to sell. So if you need any chemicals, thermite kits, fuse, we got all that.
You guys do?
Wow.